Now, of course, in this story, A Wall of Fire Rising, the balloon is a very important symbol. But the symbolism leading up to the balloon also needs to be examined from the point of view of how the characters are interacting with each other, and especially the character of the little boy and his father. The little boy is going to portray a major player in the Haitian Revolution. And so he is repeating his lines over and over. And he learns the first part so well, he is given more responsibility to learn a second part. Now, the father is unemployed. And he seeks work, and that first night he comes home, he has some news that he's going to be working at the sugar mill the next day. But it's kind of shunted to one side because of the importance of little guy's part in the play. And then we see the hot air balloon for the first time, and the father says, I think I could make it fly. This importance then between the balloon, the connection between the balloon, the connection between what the little boy is saying and learning and whom he is representing, and the father's expectations and responsibilities for himself all become intertwined and become even more so before the end of the story. Going back to the expectations, the father's expectation is that he is to care for his family. That is his responsibility. Just as the little boy is given more responsibility to learn the second part of the play or the speech, the father's responsibility is to care for his family. And at one point, the mother, Lily, even says, you know, our child has never been hungry, not in the whole time that he has been with us. So then how does that all interconnect? Well, the little boy says at one point when he is sleeping and he awakes screaming, and they rush in to see him, and he says, well, first it says, and I'm reading on page 245, a loud scream came from the corner where the boy was sleeping. Lily and Guy rushed to him and tried to wake him. The boy was trembling when he opened his eyes. What is the matter? Guy asked. I cannot remember my lines, the boy said. And then we see other instances where the boy is afraid that he has forgotten his lines. This is symbolic of his father. His father is not working. His father is forgetting his lines in a very basic sense. So the young boy's fear of forgetting his speech is symbolically linked to the father's place in his family and in his society. Where is his responsibility? And he knows that responsibility very well, and yet he is not able to do the things that he should be doing, or he thinks that he should be doing for his family. He is forgetting his lines. And perhaps the longer he becomes, or he stays unemployed, perhaps the more he is going to do that. Now, going back to the balloon. And he says this just before the incident with the young boy happens, when Guy is talking to Lily. I think I can fly that balloon. The first time I saw him do it, it looked like a miracle. But the more and more I saw it, the more ordinary it became. So it was a miracle, and then it became ordinary. So how does that tie in with this whole aspect? And more importantly, what is the symbolism of the balloon to Guy? Now, it's a pretty obvious symbolism in that, the ability to fly away. They even speak of, if humans were meant to fly, we would have wings, etc., etc. That would be a miracle, wouldn't it? And that would be the miracle of flight. But the fact that humans fly every day makes it very ordinary. And so then the story progresses, And we have this longing for flight. And I am not going to belabor the symbolism of the balloon, because that, again, that's pretty easy. That is an escape. But then over on page 247, Guy says, opening his eyes, Guy asked her, how do you think a man is judged after he's gone? How did he expect her to answer something like that? People don't eat riches, she said. They eat what it can buy. What does that mean, Lily? Don't talk to me in parables or symbols. Talk to me honestly. A man is judged by his deeds, she said. The boy never goes to bed hungry. For as long as he's been with us, he's always been fed. Just as he had heard himself mentioned, the boy came dashing from the other side of the field, crashing in a heap on top of his parents. My new lines, he said. I have forgotten my new lines. Is this how you will be on the day of this play, son? Guy asked. When people give you big responsibilities, you have to try to live up to them. And that is what Guy is trying to do, live up to his responsibility. And there's a few more lines, and then Guy says, you know that question I asked you before, how a man is remembered after he's gone? I know the answer now. I know because I remember my father, who was a very poor, struggling man all his life. I remember him as a man that I would never want to be. So then we see that interplay between how Guy remembers his father and how he is afraid his son is going to remember him. And so the next thing we know, Guy is in the balloon and he has made it fly. But instead of flying away with that escapist, ideology, for example, think of the Wizard of Oz. Think of what the balloon symbolized in that. It was a conveyance to take you outside of time and outside of this world. But now Guy is in the balloon, and instead of flying away, he seems to commit suicide by climbing over outside of the basket, and I don't know the technical term for that, and plummeting to earth. So, has he shirked his responsibilities by killing himself? What are his responsibilities? And what has he left his child or his son? Well, when we get over to the end of the story, and the foreman is asking Lily about whether or not to close his eyes, and she says, no, leave them open, Lily said. My husband, he likes to look at the sky. So that is how she's going to remember him, hopefully, is that he was a man who set his sights higher. But it still goes back to, why did he kill himself? Wouldn't it have been better for him to have lived and to have kept moving forward and try to get a job to support his family? Well, the answer comes in the second part of the speech that the young boy is memorizing, and that goes, there is so much sadness in the faces of my people. I have called on their gods. Now I call on our gods. I call on our young. I call on our old. I call on our mighty and the weak. I call on everyone and anyone, so that we shall all let out wind-piercing cry, so that we may either live freely or we should die. And that's all I'm going to say, because I want you to draw your conclusions about that speech and Guy's actions.